This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
There we go.
It's, what is the day today? Today is March 27th. We're at the Public Safety Building Committee meeting. It's at 4:30, and we're going to call the meeting to order. I'd like to open it up to anybody from the public who'd like to speak, if they so desire. No? Then I'd like to review the minutes. We have 2 minutes to review. One is from the February 9th. Was the review of the
It's the joint meeting between the Ad Hoc Senior Center Feasibility Committee and the Public Safety Building Committee. I believe that 7 of us were present, so we had a quorum, as well as the others. There were several members of the public there.
Any comments? Is there a motion?
To accept it.
Motion
Who
to
was
accept
that?
it?
John?
And second?
I second it. Oh, Don? Don, did you second it?
Yeah,
It's been
I was there.
motion moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Or-
Aye.
I guess I can't vote.
You can abstain.
I abstain.
Yeah. So there's, was it unanimous with one abstention?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we also have the meeting minutes of the last meeting, which was on March 30th. Any comments on the draft minutes?
March 20th, maybe?
Pardon?
March 20th?
March 20th, I'm sorry, yes.
Correct.
No, it was fine with me.
Yeah. If there's no comments, is there a motion to accept as written?
So moved.
A second, please?
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, John.
A motion been made and second. Any more comments? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
So we're approved. And go for an update on the senior center study, but no one's here from the
Want to
senior study.
defer? Just until Rainey gets here?
Yeah, we would wait.
Yeah, why don't we just put that off?
Yeah, we'll get it off from the end of the meeting. And then we jump into the big one, discussion of proposals received and response. I think everybody got the responses, and I'm bleary-eyed from reading those 300-page proposals. And Ed sent out score sheets, and we all filled them out and sent them back to Ed. You returned a copy of them to each one of the committee members with scores. And I guess I'd open it up to general discussion, maybe with Ed from a technical perspective. Just my personal scenario was there were a couple of them that didn't have all of the, what we call minimum submission requirements, but I think they could be inferred from some of the proposals.
Well, my suggestion is to start with talking about the evaluation, the minimum evaluation criteria, because yes, as you noted, there's a couple of those. And then there's also little notes along the way, like did not see a timeline, not specified, principal charge available, appears to. There's actually one no for, and this is just on C and B, for the qualification submittal must include all required documentation listed under section 3 above. But there are a number of those through there, and you might want to just talk about those, and maybe the people that either had comments or said no, of actually figuring out if it actually is a no, because once they don't meet the minimum criteria, they're gone from the bottom portion.
Correct.
Excuse me, before we start that though, could we clarify what your position of conflict of interest is you submitted a form. I'm just wondering how that plays into all of this.
Yeah, I was part owner of Berkshire Design Group, which is a engineering and landscape architect survey firm. And oftentimes, our firm would be a sub-consultant to an architect. Actually.
Well, it listed as C&B
Right.
sub-consultant.
Right, so Caleb Beanie had Berkshire Design as a sub-consultant for their landscape architecture, civil engineering, and surveying. I have not worked with them, I have no financial interest in them, I completely sold out 3 years ago. So I really am not in contact with them, no longer affiliated with them. I just want to get more of a perception of conflict of interest. I may be, swayed towards or against the company that had Berkshire Design as a sub-consultant. So that was why I felt it was important to disclose the fact that I was formerly part of Berkshire Design.
Okay, but so I thought there was a timeline. Are you just, having filled out that form, you have been given the go-ahead to proceed?
I'm not really sure on the process. I think it's just a case of notifying the awarding authority, which is the Board of Selectmen. Again, I'm not a legal expert.
Select board.
Select board, I'm sorry. So in that regard, I don't know the exact legal process. It might be cleaner. Charlie, if you have an input?
There is a timeline relative to when you leave employment as to when you can actually participate again. But I don't remember what it is, and every circumstance is different. If he was looking to hire his company after he left for a year, I think he'd have to bow out of everything.
Correct.
But
Is it a one-year time frame, Ed?
That's my memory.
that's mine too.
Yes.
Yeah, unless you have state secrets, then it's a little longer.
It has been longer than 1 year.
Or if you still have a financial interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can honestly say that they were paying off some of my ownership aspects of it less than a year ago. So
Yeah.
I think probably to be in the safe side of things, that I probably should abstain from choosing a sub-consultant or a architect for this project. I feel like I'm legitimate, but I think to be on the safe side and prevent any aspect of conflict of interest, it might be better if I abstain from this particular process.
Would this be a question of him contacting the ethics, the state ethics? There's a phone number you can call. I've called it myself a couple of times, and you will get an attorney to consult with you on what exactly you should do. I wonder if this is the kind
Actually,
of...
as an appointed official, his decisional body is either myself or the select board rather than the State Ethics Commission. As an elected official, you have to go to the State Ethics Commission. But in this particular case, if Mark felt better, I would probably say the statement he may want to make and declare is that to avoid the perception of a conflict of interest, I abstain from the decision-making process for an architect for the feasibility study.
Yeah, I think the perception could be made, so based upon that concept of a perception, I think it's best if I abstain from the choosing of the consultant. And once that consultant is chosen, I feel fully capable and able to proceed with the next phase.
Okay, I didn't know what the process for that was. Okay, thank you.
So for this portion of the discussion, I would prefer to turn over the chairmanship to the
Vice Chair?
vice chair.
Okay, shall we revert to Rini first for a senior center update, or should we move
You already
forward?
approved the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. This is not a big update on the, I'll give an update on the select board and also senior center building committee. So I don't think we've met since last Monday. So the plan is still in place. The select board chair sent out letters to the 3 landowners Gallagher, Labrie, and Marvin Keystone, asking if they're willing to sell or donate land for the purposes of the senior center, and if so, the beginning of a negotiation of a price, and requested that we hear back by the 31st of March. We have a meeting next Thursday. Maybe it's this Thursday. Yeah, it must be this Thursday if it wasn't last Thursday. And I expect that the committee will rank order the properties 1 and 2. And that's really it on that. We did get the, I think, almost final copy of the feasibility study to review. And there were just some small edits made, so by April 6th, we will have the final, I believe it's April 6th or thereabouts, we're going to have the final copy of the feasibility study of the senior center. And that's about that. And as far as the select board, tomorrow night we're looking at ARPA funding, and I did mention to the select board about the associate membership. I mentioned about increasing the ARPA funding for the feasibility study so we have more room to negotiate. And I think there was one other thing. Oh, and I did mention about John Lumber, although unfortunately he wasn't there, but I did want to let him know that the Finance Committee should consider sending another member this way since Barbara Simborski resigned. So that's the update. Any questions?
Thank you, Rini. All right then, so moving on to the review of this. So, what I am seeing here on this large format summary is that we don't, in fact, have all of the first 5 questions here. On the first page, we have the first 3.
We're talking about the baseline criteria, right?
So, yes, the minimum evaluation criteria is referring to.
So Ed, I don't know if you've had a little bit more time to look at it, I think, than the rest of us. Are there any, based on all the responses that you've seen and tallied, was there any consideration or concern that any of the firms didn't meet the basic criteria?
Well, that's what's here, and basically we should be talking about, because
Right.
and these are divided into the 5 methods. So I'm just going to go in order. So for Kale and Bennett,
Yep.
on basically number 3, the designer shall be able to start the project by April 28, 2023, and complete the final study by November 22nd, 2023.
Yeah.
MG made a comment of did not see a timeline. Question. KM made a comment not specified. CP made a comment principal charge available. So none of those to me are definitive yeses and could be no's. So the first question is, are any of these actually no's, which would eliminate them from the procedure?
Well,
All right, what page are you reading on? Just continue.
Yeah.
Second page, well, it would be the backside of the first page for you.
Backside of the first page.
I'm not exactly
seeing it there.
seeing.
No, you're reading something else.
No, you're reading something else. First one is in business 10 years, and then they have to be a registered architect or engineer. They have to do 3 feasibility studies, public engagement, and then all the rating of the professional staff. I don't know.
Minimum evaluation criteria. First question is designer must have been in business for 10 years.
Yep.
Second question is the designer must be either a mass registered architect and or a mass professional engineer, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Third question is designer must have experience with at least 3 feasibility studies or designs.
Right. So everybody's on the same page up till there.
Fourth question on the back side of that should be
The question-
designer shall be able to start the project by April.
The question got clipped off.
I don't see that in.
It must have got clipped off.
Yeah, the
I
top
got copied
would be
that.
the
So that would be
question.
this group here.
And it looks like everybody answered yes.
And
So,
then something's wrong. Next up,
One we're waiting for, is the timeline, April 28th. November
yeah,
17th.
we'll make a new copy from these, just to make sure.
Online version.
If we're looking at CBA, I made a note here, the closest thing I could find was it says
Who's ringing?
they had sufficient resources.
Yeah,
Is that a phone?
yeah, it's on. Yeah, I didn't see a
I didn't see
timeline.
dates.
No,
I
there
didn't see a
were,
timeline.
I didn't see dates either.
Yeah. I thought obviously they're the most local company, but I also felt that it was probably the least geared to Southampton, which was I found interesting. Because the timeline would have been a little bit more specific.
I read it online and I also borrowed the hard copies. The online, while this isn't part of our minimum criteria, I was very concerned about the multiple spelling errors in the
Oh, I
CBA.
know.
And as if we were not looking at their final draft. That was a concern for me, and they referred to Board of Selectmen, and it was very clearly Select Board in the original RFQ. A few things like that that just,
I was surprised by the spelling errors.
yeah.
So let's just move along here. So for the minimum criteria, I'm on the online copy
Me
here.
too,
So what was documented was the designer shall be able to start the project by April 28th and complete the final study by November 22nd. So I wrote, question, do not see a timeline. KM wrote not specified, and CP wrote principal charge available.
I think that meant principal, charge was not the right word, principal person was
Okay.
available, but the rest of them, it was not clear if they were
Okay.
available.
And these are still the, so the question is that enough to disqualify them from not meeting the basic criteria that there was no timeline? So the next question is, the qualifications submitted must include all required documentation listed under 3 above. Well, that's kind of redundant.
You know, I checked yes on that, but I didn't intend to. That was a no for me.
Oh, I have no on the online copy we got today. It says KM no.
Yeah.
Is that because of the timeline? Because
Oh, okay, so on this, yes. No, I didn't think all the documentation was here.
Okay.
And I don't have a list of that page that was referred to with me, but there were, the only thing in this section 3 required forms, the only thing was insurance and the non-collusion tax compliance corporate bidder. It didn't include the debarment, hadn't been in bankruptcy for 10 years. I can tell you the others because JCJ listed everything very clearly in documents. So sufficient resources, insurance coverage, bankruptcy statement, professional references, insurance, and then the non-collusion compliance, tax compliance, etc. So Kalo and Baynek only submitted 2 of the documents.
I do remember the references on there being in the text.
Yes, that may be, but I searched for the debarment
Okay.
and the bankruptcy.
Now, were those forms, or just, because the other ones just made statements? Now,
They-
a statement wasn't a form that they were supposed to fill out. I didn't know if they were looking for a form. There is no form for disbarment, or it's just, the other ones just did a statement, so they didn't submit a form either.
No, but they didn't make a statement either.
Right. But was the original RFQ saying to fill out the forms, and the forms were in the back?
I don't believe so.
Let me bring up the original RFQ.
I
I don't recall any forms in the back for anything.
There was forms, I.
Oh, there was addendum, there was
I
addendum.
think it was.
Yeah.
But Rini, the mentioned page for the forms, let's see. Section 3 above, so that's, it says here, the qualifications submitted must include all required documentation, sorry, listed under section 3 above.
Where are you looking in the original doc?
Well, I'm looking at the scoring sheet.
Right.
Oh, so on the latest RFQ, on the most recent RFQ?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay,
Under what?
section 3.
Section
B.
3. Experience leading, okay, that's the,
Right, so Mark has just handed it to me, a completed state of,
submission requirements?
yes, down at E.
E. The designer must submit the following: a completed certificate of tax compliance, certificate of non-collusion, and corporate bidder. These forms are attached: disbarment certification, evidence of required licenses, workers' comp, general liability, excess liability, auto and professional liability. Confirming that the designer has not filed bankruptcy in the last 10 years, acknowledgement of the ability to provide insurance coverage in accordance with the town's minimum limits, sufficient resources to complete the study by November 22nd, and 3 professional references. Okay.
Now granted, some of the references were not, in the others, were not included in the documentation, or in the document section, but they are elsewhere, and I couldn't find them. And then it does say at the end of that, any submission that fails to include all of the above information will be rejected as unresponsive.
Okay. Instead of moving on, do you want to just move to the next one and we'll come back to that? Or do you want to just have a vote to decide what to do? Does that disqualify them from being a competitive, going into the comparative evaluation?
Well, let's see. So on CBA, those final 2 that were not printed, that did not come through on what Ed has provided for us, those, the 4th and 5th. So we have, there were 3 people, I think,
Yep.
who
Didn't see a timeline.
could not find a timeline, and 2 of us, I
Yep.
think, that indicated
it was complete.
that the documentation was not complete.
Okay.
Any discussion on that?
I think if we have put down minimum criteria and we've defined it as necessary, I don't know that we can change that plan at this moment. That's
We
what
can't.
I'm afraid of there, is, and I also am remembering that it could be in more than one phase. In other words, this is for the feasibility study, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the designer.
Correct.
This is, and the feasibility study is something we have to sell to the public, and we have to feel like we've defended it and we're comfortable with it, even though we've had very good feedback from others, specifically the Hadley Fire people, that C&B did a great job on one, and that isn't the same as writing a feasibility study. And so I think if we keep that in mind, I think we've pulled out a bunch of concerns here about C&B at this moment. That's my comment.
So my question would be then, do we want to vote on them one by one as we go through them, or go through a brief review of each of them and then?
Yeah, I'd like to do the brief review, I think. I mean, that's just my opinion. And then discuss them as a whole.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so.
I think that I had some other concerns about CBA. Should we carry on with that, or just hold off and see whether those 2 automatically disqualify them? Yes, Charlie.
We've already scored all of these. good, bad, or indifferent, we already scored them. What I would suggest was we take like the 2 highest ones and review them to see if we want to interview them in our scoring, and do the debate on those 2. Because if we're going to go back to debating all 5 applicants again,
But at this moment, we don't have all of the results in, so we can't know which one's got the highest.
We do.
Oh, we have that number.
Yeah, they're at the bottom.
they're
we do.
scored at the end.
They're scored each of-
I mean, I think that there's 2 of them. One of them is higher than this, and then this one, and if we're debating whether this one is meet
I'm
minimum
not
criteria.
sure.
If you see
There might be
online,
a third one that
you're
rises above
unfortunately
this
dealing
one.
with the wrong
So it might
thing.
make sense to just do a quick review of all of
Do you want
them.
me to come,
Shouldn't
do you
take
want me
too
to show
long.
this to you?
I cannot
long as we're not
watch
looking
it
at
in the
the
computer. No,
entities,
No, I don't
I'm off
think so.
the computer, so I cannot join you there.
What do you think, John? And
There's totals at the bottom of
Yeah,
each one.
I agree with, let's skim from the top.
Okay, just go over a quick review of all of them. You think
Yeah.
that'd be all right, Chief? All good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Can we do that then? Should we keep going on the comparative criteria or stop if someone doesn't appear to meet the basic one?
Okay, so why don't we review, may I suggest that we just review for the moment the evaluation criteria
Okay, for CBA?
for everybody.
Okay.
Shall we go through all 5 and
Okay,
see
sure.
if anyone is immediately disqualified?
Okay.
So,
Well, I made some notes under the CBA from what people have said. Doesn't appear to include minimum criteria, no timeline, not all documents appear included, spelling errors. So I'll just make some notes if you want, and
You
then
can share
we'll-
those with me too.
Okay. So you want to look at the comparative criteria for CBA?
well, that was my question. Do we want to go through?
Sure.
When you want to go through the evaluation criteria, I mean, if they're,
Yeah,
they
that's-
don't meet the minimum requirements, then they just get disqualified.
Then we don't
Yeah.
even have to review
Okay.
the comparative. That's what I had
Okay.
just suggested. So moving on, who did Ed have next? EDM, I think. All right, so let's move on to EDM. And I will have to have help then because I just have Ed's paper copy and you know better, you who are
Okay.
looking at the
The
computer.
first one is, everyone said yes, they have been in business for 10 years. The designer must be a registered architect or professional engineer with at least 5 years' experience. Everyone said yes. Designer must have experience with at least 3 feasibility studies of similar. Everyone said yes. Then the part that says should be able to start the project by April 28th and complete it by November 22nd. CK said no, and Cindy Palmer said immediately available.
That was a quote out of what they wrote
And
versus saying.
And
the
JW
20th.
said no.
I didn't see the immediate available.
Okay. I do remember seeing that.
That was under G, there was that A, B, C, D, E, F, G on a, like a application, it was a narrative on every one of them, and in that one it's said that the primary people were quote, immediately available.
The problem with this whole thing, Cindy, is everybody wrote narratives,
Yeah,
and you had to,
that's true.
However,
It's very
in
challenging.
the EDM RFQ, the last page, there's a schedule of services chart,
Yes.
which begins it in April and ends it at the end of November. It's a very clear scope of services, schedule of services. And
Now,
that's just before the
Each one of
board.
these is now separate rather than booked, so there's one for Keough Bennick, one for EDM, one for H2M, one for HKT, and one for JCJ.
And while you were gone, we decided to just quickly go over and summarize each of them. There's some question about whether CBA meets minimum criteria. There was no timeline. There weren't all the documents there. So we're moving on, and we're talking about EDM now. And so Charlie, JW, does that seem to meet your, what Christina just said?
Yes,
The timeline is right there in the back.
yeah.
And you, Cindy, also?
Yes.
The next question is, the qualifications submitted must include all required documentation. Say you didn't put X, but you said appears so that's that. And then, should I keep going? The comparative, so everyone, I guess, is in agreement that they meet minimum. And then the comparative one is a lot more all over the place.
Well, I guess so.
So with EDM, both Charlie and Don retract their nose?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was JW, so it's John Markle.
We can believe that.
Okay. Okay, so comparative criteria, it's just a little bit all over the place. How many, I think, I personally found that the company that does all the fire public safety complexes was a subcontracted company, and they got a lot of them. So did people say no because they didn't find that it was EDM itself, or because the fire company that they contract with, it seems like that's solely what they do?
That is true, but what I noted about that, and I certainly found, my impression was that the MW Studios, the subconsultant, specializes in the facilities, but most of them that they presented were larger than 30,000 square feet. So that is bigger than what we, it's not, we have to decide. I wrote to Mark and asked at one point, what does similar mean? Is it size?
Yeah.
Somebody who can design large fire, public safety complexes ought to be able to design a small one, but I don't know. Certainly MW Studios had significant experience. They're beautiful complexes that they've designed. But given the criteria of similar projects,
I think at one point we did specify, maybe not on this one, it did say 30,000 or less square feet. But but it's not listed on this particular question. What about other people that, Charlie, you put four similar,
Right, did not-
John.
I didn't bring any notes with me.
okay, John Workman, John O'Shea.
I've just put 3 similar because defining similar,
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets really gray.
very
All of a sudden, They
unclear.
did something where they designed it, but they didn't actually build, or,
Yeah.
Right.
or, whether it was just a feasibility study. So, boy, there's so much artistic
Yeah.
license as to how to interpret some of that.
And some of the buildings weren't fire stations or police stations or complexes.
It might have been a fire training facility.
fire
Right.
school,
So
right.
is that
Correct, is that
similar?
the same?
Well, I think we
Or a
changed the
library.
criteria, but we did not say fire school. We said police station, fire station, or
Yeah.
complex. So we didn't say, I think that's a very different building if you're talking about a training.
I think so too. So-
But that was for EDM themselves. The subcontractor, the subconsultant MW Studios, I think had plenty of experience and examples of firehouses, public safety complexes. Excuse me.
So I guess that's the question. I mean, we were evaluating based on the team they put together, not necessarily the primary team, right?
The team that they put together for the project.
Yeah.
And therefore, the question is not clear, because it says similar projects completed by firm. Doesn't say team, doesn't say all the subcontractors.
Yeah.
And it's
That made it
unclear.
very difficult
Yes.
for me to score this one.
And that's
because of
exactly
that.
why I said 4 similar versus 5 or more.
They all use consultants, whether it's engineers or,
Right.
specialists, they all use consultants, landscaping consultants.
Correct.
Cost
So,
estimator, yeah.
I think any of them, some of them are all architects, but there's no engineers, so they have to,
Yeah.
they have to use a consultant for engineering.
But however, oh, excuse me, Mark, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Pardon?
Oh, I think I started to interrupt you, and I didn't mean to.
No,
You're-
also.
oh, so- Okay, but now we have jumped into the comparative evaluation criteria. Let's just stick with the first 5 questions for all 5 first before we go into those, right? Isn't that what we decided to do?
You mean start with just the basic criteria first?
With all
I
5,
think the
yes.
goal is to eliminate anybody that didn't meet the
Right.
Right,
the minimum.
exactly.
Okay.
The minimum
Yeah.
evaluation. So before jumping into this section
Okay.
with EDM, let us move forward, please, to
Okay,
the
so-
next one.
So, just so you know, the question we just discussed was an evaluative criteria question.
Yes.
So we're saying then that the EDM meets the basic.
Is it agreed? I believe so. I think everyone agreed, answered yes to all of those questions
Okay.
for EDM. So now let's move on to our next one, and please guide me as to which the next.
H2M.
All right.
Did you get the new ones here? You just gave
I
us?
have not, I haven't sorted through them. Oh, okay.
So H2M is all yes, yes, yes. And the question that comes up again is about the timeline.
It's an H2M.
And there are questions by the committee around, so I didn't see a timeline, I didn't see it specified, neither did Charlie, and neither did Cindy, and neither did John Workman. So same thing, I don't think there was I don't think the timeline was
Yeah,
specified.
okay, you only have one sheet?
Yeah,
All right, so what I can say about that, and I don't know whether this qualifies
Take a staple sheet.
them or not, but the timeline, there is no schedule of services chart,
That'd be somebody
but
else.
a November 22nd finish date is stated in the required statements in the document section. So does that qualify as,
well, the question specifically says the designer shall be able to start the project by April 28th and complete the final study by November 22nd.
correct? So
What does it say?
it says, H2M and Architects and Engineers, Inc. confirms that we have sufficient resources to complete the study by November 22nd, 2023. I took that as a statement that they would work within our time frame.
I do.
You think so?
Did you mention a starting time?
No.
No.
And that's why I said it wasn't clear. However, I will change mine to agree that they can meet this criteria. If we will agree that if they finish it by the 22nd of November, then that
Yeah, I wouldn't
constitutes
Okay.
meeting the
All right,
criteria.
I'll be happy to change mine as well then, if that's, thanks, Christine. Charlie, how about you?
Yeah, let me change it.
Okay. And then the last question is, everybody said yes to. So that is a yes to meeting the basic.
HKT is next.
Thank you.
And
HKT, Renee?
Yep. Question 1, everybody said yes. Question 2, DW did not answer it. The designer must be either a mass registered architect or a professional engineer with 5 years experience in design and construction.
Sorry, which one is it?
This is HKT. You know, Don? You want that one?
No.
Huh? No, okay. But you didn't put down no either, so maybe it was just somehow missed. You have the original draft, Ed?
What's that?
We're just wondering if there was, the X was missed by Dawn or missed by you, or, because there's no either, it's just blank.
It's just blank, correct.
Okay. Well, if someone can find that in the document so that Dawn can, does the firm led by designer is either a professional engineer or architect with at least 5 years' experience in design and construction?
I can find it.
And then the third question, everybody said yes, and the last question, everybody said yes.
I remember, I vaguely remember dealing with that question,
Okay.
and the confusion that I had at the time was, you know, they didn't say yes and they didn't say no.
Okay. Let me, hang on, I have a...
I think if you look
But I would certainly consider
Okay, let's just,
saying yes.
all right, let's look at it first, so I'll just, be thorough about it.
Let's see, under the, hang on a minute.
Excuse me.
Is HKT, is that what it says? HKT?
HKT,
Usually it says right in the beginning, actually.
What's that?
It often says right in the beginning.
Excuse me.
Do we have a second hard copy?
It says, HKT Architects is pleased to submit our blah, blah, blah. We believe that we are very qualified for this project based on our more than 47 years of experience completing public projects throughout Massachusetts. Includes standalone fire and police buildings as well as public safety buildings. And they list public safety building, Ashland, Tewksbury, Truro, Holbrook, Tisbury, Chelmsford, Marshfield, Cambridge, Upton, Salisbury. Does that sound okay to you, Don?
And a lot of them put their actual certifications right at the end of the proposal.
Yeah, I think,
Right.
yeah, in the form attached, I think it.
So Janet, well, like Slamenda, a principal, indicates is a principal and an experienced project manager with over 41 years of experience.
No, I remember that one, and she didn't list herself as a registered.
She did, I think.
Yeah, I just have to find, I have to get to the right page to find. Are you looking at
I'm
the
looking at it
digital
right now.
copy
It says here,
too?
Janet is a principal and experienced project manager with over 41 years of experience. She brings project expertise. Let's see, American
Okay.
Institute of
Yeah,
Architects,
that's what it
Boston
is.
Society of Architects.
Right, and so,
They usually have their license number right there.
Well, DSP form has it.
yes,
That's the
that's
form.
what,
Yeah, right.
that's what I was just looking
What's the
for, and I
DSP
have
stand
it.
for?
It's
It's
the one
on our
that,
selection board.
yeah.
Thanks.
You said you have it?
Yeah, I do. So, the first principal, Janet Slenda, I'm sorry, I butchered her name. With this firm, 37 years experience, other firms, 45, active registration, with a mass registration and number 1984 in architecture. That's how I'm reading that. The second one, who is Amy Dunlap, years with the firm 22.5, with other firms 0.5. Active registration says NA.
But Janet, the first one, has the,
And yes,
is that okay for you, Don?
Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
So it's unanimous?
Yeah.
They meet it?
Yeah.
JCJ.
HKT.
JCJ is the last one.
I just want to make a note of what Dawn just said. JCJ, everybody said yes. Don Warren said no, and JW, no answer to 5 years experience in design construction of the public safety complex, police stations, or combination thereof.
John Workman is not listed as responding to any of them. Was that perhaps overlooked? Ed, if you didn't get John on that?
Yeah, good point. The designer must either be a registered architect or, same thing, same question, or engineer with at least 5 years' experience in design and construction of public safety type buildings. So Dawn said no, and there's no answer for John Workman at any of
Looks like it
the...
didn't get saved.
Yes, they're all mixed.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, hang on.
It's shown on the email.
Yeah, it didn't get saved.
That didn't show on the email, because I'm looking at the email.
I'm looking at the email.
I'm looking at the email too.
And you have an X on his?
For JCJ?
For JW?
That's what I sent there, that's what I'm looking at. My email doesn't.
Weird.
Yeah, they're all yeses.
That is bizarre.
That
That's
is
weird.
very bizarre, because I'm opening it and it's
I
not
believe
coming
you,
out.
Charlie. That's bizarre. Okay, so everybody, Dawn, do you want to, yeah, that's incredible.
It's a smartphone.
Yeah.
It's evidently smarter than the printer.
Yeah, I guess so.
Jeez.
Okay, so,
No wonder nothing matches the
Dawn, do you want us to go back and look at the firm and just make sure that there's an architect and engineer with at least 5 years' experience?
I'll go with the will, Mr. Chairman.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we'll check you off on that. So that means that all of them, with the exception of CBA, meet the basic criteria. Unless you want to continue to discuss that, whether they do or don't, but that's, I think, where we're at this point.
If we're all in agreement that C and B don't meet the basic criteria, I think we need to eliminate them.
And we're sure of that. The only reason, I remember working with them with the last one, they were very, good company to work with.
Yeah, I feel badly.
Make sure that,
I-
we're certain on that, that's all.
I just wonder if we got their final
Yeah.
proposal, because of all the errors in there. Somehow, did somebody send out the wrong one or something?
Yeah. Definitely wasn't a final draft.
Yeah, the Hadley North Station, they had nothing but good things to say.
Yeah.
That wasn't a local station.
Well,
The
the-
feeling is if we eliminate them, we're not heading in the right direction.
Well, we can't change the criteria, so it's just a matter of whether we agree that they met it or not.
Right.
Well, let's, you want to start looking at the comparative one, work backwards, since we're at JCJ? And then we'll discuss CBA when we get to it? What do you think?
I think that's fine. What I want to do, however,
What do you want to do?
well, when I was flipping, when we had moved on to EDM,
Yeah?
I got into their forms, and the only forms they have submitted they are the engineering services required certifications and insurance. on this page. Now, that doesn't mean, I thought I was quite careful in making sure, in the cover letters, some people covered this, so I'm assuming that I found it elsewhere, but I'm just having a slight moment of wondering. But everybody else answered yes, that all the documents had been submitted. Okay,
Right.
fine. Let us assume that that information is elsewhere. Well, all right, are we in agreement that we work backwards and then
Yeah,
with
yeah.
JCJ and go over the comparative?
Okay, so
Before you start that, I'm wondering if my answers on the comparative and the summary sheet should be removed from the tally.
They will be.
Okay. I mean, before we start talking numbers and who came on top, my votes probably should be eliminated from the
Yeah,
total.
that's a good point. That's a very good point. Okay, so...
I just want to be clear for the minutes.
Yeah.
We've agreed that all 5 firms met the minimum criteria.
I don't
No.
think we
No,
have
we
that.
haven't.
We haven't agreed
There's
yet.
a question of.
I think we
Still
know that
CBA.
4 have, and I think we're working our way back and we'll end up discussing CBA.
I see, okay, all right.
So according to JCJ, the first question is all over the place. Now, if I remove Mark, Ed, you want?
I'll do it.
Y'all do that. All right, I'm just gonna remove it for discussion. I'm gonna write abstain. So we remember, and then it's just kind of like a lot of all over the place. I think 2 people said highly advantageous, 2 people said advantageous, 3 people said not advantageous, and 1 said unacceptable.
Well, good.
Okay, we're just gonna...
Less than 3 is what I wrote.
Yeah, that says unacceptable.
Well, I only put that my note here is that they're much larger, they're
Yep.
larger projects. So again, that's that gray area.
Yep. All right, we'll just, I mean, if we want to go back and look at things, we can, but that's going to take a lot of time. Let's just go down to the next question. Experience of firm in public building projects. Most people said 8 or more years, and then 2 people said at least 5 years. So not, unanimous. The next one is experience leading engagement process. 2 people said 4 or more, 3 people said 3, and 3 people said 1 or 2. So a little bit all over the place. Experience, the next one is the experience of the architects, the engineers, and the cost estimators. And just about everybody said 10 or more years for the architect. 1 person, Charlie, said at least 5 as opposed to 10. Engineers, just about everybody said at least 10 years. 1 person, Cindy Palmer, said at least 5, but less than 10. And for the cost estimator, everybody said 10 years, with the exception of Cindy, who said 5 to 10.
And some people didn't answer.
Yeah.
CK didn't answer a couple of them according to this.
Correct. And the last one is completeness, organization, and it's a little bit all over the place. So 2 said all items, 5 said most or predominantly, and then 2 said most. So it seems like it's a little all over the place with a score of 36. So that was on the lower side.
Yeah, the new totals would be 31, 11, and 10 for JCJ.
Okay, 31. So it actually went down 11 and 10. And then what about 1 at the end or 0 at the end?
It's a 1, I think.
1? Okay.
Let's see, make sure that was not one of Mark's answers.
Yeah, there was an answer of 1, the one that's...
Yes,
yeah,
it was,
okay.
no, it was somebody different, so it's 1 at the end.
Yep. Okay, so
Did that
that's
change?
pretty low. You want to just move on? Because I don't think we're going to do anything with that anyway.
I think that one's,
Okay, the next one is the one that had the highest score. So
That's HKT.
HKT. So starting with the evaluative criteria, first one, everybody said that they've had similar projects within 10 years, at least 5 or more. Everyone said experience in the firm with public building projects. Everyone said experience leading public engagement. Everyone said experience of the architect at least 10 years. Everyone said engineer 10 years, and everybody said cost estimator 10 years. You could do much better than this, actually. Complete this organization and readability of responses. Everybody except DW said all of the items were addressed clearly and comprehensively with a score of 69. So basically, 69 out of 70. That's pretty good. But if we're going to take Mark out, then I guess it would be
62.
62.
So they're the highest scoring.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all seem to agree.
Yep.
Do you want a motion that they be one of the interviewed clients?
Aren't we going to keep going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, but they're the highest, so it's a foregone conclusion that when we be interviewing them first?
Do we know that it's the highest? It is high, but are there others
Yeah.
within that we haven't gotten to yet? Let's just carry on and then we'll make the motion.
Okay.
When we've reviewed the 5, it won't take long.
Okay. H2M.
Lovely.
Yeah, interesting. They're all letters.
Yeah.
Okay. First question, similar projects by the firm. It's a little bit all over the place. 5 people did not say highly advantageous. The second one is experience in a firm in public building projects. Everyone said at least 8 years. The next question is 3 people did not give it the highest score. Experience leading public engagement. CK, MM, and JO all said 3, similar, everybody else said 4. The next one is experience of professional staff. Architect, everybody except CK and JW said 10 or more years. Engineer, CK said 5 to 10, everybody else said 10 or more. And then cost estimator, 4 people said 5 to 10, everybody else said 10 or more. Complete list.
There was one that kept coming up.
Pardon?
If the estimators are subcontractors, is that the same thing as?
Yeah, they're all, we're evaluating all the subcontractors because not one person is not using them.
So the new totals on that one are 41.
On this total?
H2M?
2M,
41, yep.
41, then 14 stays the same and 8 stays the same. and
Okay, yep.
0 in the last column.
0, okay, thanks. Yeah, so basically they put forth who the cost estimator is and their background, and so we're evaluating it not based on H2M, but whoever the contract person is to do. Nobody has their own cost estimator, they're all contracting out.
Randy, just curiosity,
Yeah.
on your email, does it actually give you the scoring numbers?
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay, because mine does too. I know he's adjusting it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was just wondering if that was missing too.
No.
Me too.
All right.
Okay, so that score comes up to be 41. Do we want to just move on?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so EDM, this is the one that I think the way they work is pretty much subcontracting. So question 1, similar projects in 10 years, a little bit all over the place. 3, 4, and 2 in terms of scoring. Experience in public building projects, everybody except for DW. Everyone said at least 8 or more years. Dawn said at least 5. The next question is experience leading public engagement. It's a little bit all over the place. 3, 3, 1, and 2. And then experience of professional staff. Architects, more than 10. Everybody said more than 10. Engineer, everybody said more than 10. And cost estimator, everybody said more than 10. And then complete this organization and readability is a little bit, only 2 people said highly advantageous. A lot of people said predominantly, and then 2 people said most. So do you know the new score on that one, Ed?
Hang on just a second.
I would like to discuss that one a little bit because
Okay.
just because I had put 3 similar, and
Yeah.
as I said, so we have to define what similar is, I think.
Yeah. I thought we did. I thought it said 30,000 square feet or smaller.
New totals, 42,
Yep.
12, and 5,
And 0.
and 3.
12,
That did
5,
not change.
5, and 3.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna look in the original RFQ for a second.
I think what I'd like to say about my vote as being not advantageous is if everybody here had, or most people, found that they qualified as similar, they have abundant experience, and I was working from a size perspective. But I certainly feel that especially the MW Studios is highly qualified. I just ranked it down because of our discussion about size.
So here's what it says: the designer must have experience with at least 3 feasibility studies or design projects of public safety buildings, complexes, police stations, fire EMS stations, or any combination thereof. Within the past 15 years, the project shall have had a minimum of 10,000 square feet of floor space.
Okay, so that's a minimum.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, then I would, given their experience, I would like to change my vote up to highly advantageous, if I may.
And what is, which one?
On,
UDM?
EDM?
yes,
Can you just tell me what number?
1 of the evaluation.
Of the comparative?
Yep.
Okay, so KM is switching to 1 from, instead of not advantageous, right?
Yep.
So that would give, so Ed just confirmed that with me. That would be 1 more under highly advantageous, and that's 4 points? 4, 3, 2, 1, is that how it goes? 4, 3, 2, 1?
Each one's 1, so it's,
Each
I've
one's
got
1.
54, 3, and 5.
Under EDM?
You just told it was 42.
Oh, you're back to EDM?
Yeah.
I have moved forward a kill.
So it would be 43 then, if you're just doing his ones.
Maybe 43.
There'd be 43, and 12, and 4 then,
Yes.
and 3.
Let's be
Plus
sure.
1 in column 3, add 1 in column 1. So it'd be 43,
12, 4, 3.
12, and 4,
Yeah, and 3.
and 3. Keep forgetting about the ones that don't change.
Did you do the rescoring on the first one, with taking marks out?
With what?
JCJ.
No, the first one.
CDA.
We were going back.
We're gonna go back.
We're gonna go
Yeah.
back to
The
that.
first one was JCJ.
Yeah, 31. I just need to let people know what the scores are on the other 4.
Can you repeat the totals on JCJ?
Oh, I have it right here. It's,
Well, you just asked the question, did he change?
no, I asked him if he changed CBA. So 31, 11, 10, and 1.
We didn't do CBA, did we?
No, we
did
have
not.
not.
Do CBA.
That's JCJ. We've done 4 now,
Right.
and we're moving on to CBA.
That's
Okay,
right.
so EDM is 43, H2M is 41, JCJ is 31, and HKT is 62.
Correct.
All right, so moving on to Kalo and BNEC. The last two, do they qualify? And we have the last 2 of the 5 questions that I guess we need to vote on that.
You need to score them.
Well, no, these are the, the evaluation criteria. Did they meet
First 5
it?
questions.
The correct, if you want to look at the comparative, is that what you're saying?
No, they're concerned whether or not they even.
Yeah,
meet the
right.
criteria.
That's right. So.
So let's go through then. The first one where everybody wasn't unanimous was, is there not a timeline? Does it say anywhere in the document that the designer shall be able to start the project by April 28th and complete it by November 22nd?
I did not see that, but I did a search of timeline, and it does indicate on page 25, if you want to read that, I have a hard time seeing it on my phone, but if you were to go on page 25 of their proposal.
Okay, let me get back to it. 25.
It's right above the Blue River Fire Station photo, and there's a handshake, and it says that we commit to the project and proposal timeline.
Okay,
Doesn't provide the dates, but it says it commits to it.
Christina's looking at the actual hard copies.
You said page 25, Chief?
Yes,
Top of the page is a handshake and a brown.
yes.
It doesn't say the dates, but it does say they commit to it.
Yeah, they know what the dates are, just about.
Is it paged?
No, I'm not seeing.
So do you see the
page.
handshake?
It's right above the Little River Fire Station, it would be about a quarter into the manual.
Okay, I see that, here it is.
Yep, right there, right above that.
That's it.
And that's the only thing I found for timeline. I also searched November, so that's the only thing I found.
Do you see the thing about we commit to the
Yeah,
timeline?
we at Kalo and BNEC are able to fully commit to the project and proposed timeline.
Okay,
We have an available staff of 5 architects ready and able to provide a clear path through the design process. The CBA team will remain responsive and adaptable to changes in the project and the timeline should they arise throughout the development.
okay, so I'll check yes on mine.
And I shall check yes on mine.
Okay. So let me go back down.
And then Rainey had a comment, did not see a timeline, so she
Yeah.
did the other one.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a timeline, but I guess I'll go along with it. They at least addressed it.
Yes, no schedule of services as several of the others proposed.
And the next one where it wasn't unanimous was the qualifications submitted must include all required documentation listed under section 3 above. And Christina, you had said that they did not have all the documentation. So I'll go back to the original. We talked about this, Ed, while you were downstairs.
So under required forms,
Yeah.
bidder documentation, they have the insurance and the engineering services required certifications.
Did they address the debarment? Because I couldn't find that.
No. The references aren't there. They may well be elsewhere. I don't think I found references.
I checked that off, so I don't remember, but I checked it off like I found it.
You found references?
Yeah.
Okay.
According to the table of contents, it says, section 1, intro to firm, representative projects, project approach, references, resumes of principal, key staff, and consultants. Section 2, standard designer application form for municipalities and public agencies not within DSB jurisdiction. Required forms, certificate of non-collusion, tax compliance certification, corporate bidder, and certificate of liability insurance.
Now, I don't know whether the electronic form is different from the hard copy, but section 1, which lists all of these inclusions, including the references,
Yeah,
it has nothing in it.
really?
Yep, it has just this page.
What page is that?
It's not numbered. It's the first page of section 1. Well, the second page. The first page is left intentionally blank. So it is supposed to include introduction to firm, representative projects, project approach, references, and resumes.
Okay, hang on, I'm on the electronic version at the moment. Okay, I have the cover letter and then a page blank. And then I have the table of contents and then a page blank. Then I have good architecture is a product of good communication and full service design, our experience, our commitment, built to last, the photos. It has another photo, project experience, police, fire. So they don't have any?
It's there for the section 1.
Yeah,
There's
they don't have any.
good architecture is a product of good communication, built to last, and a picture.
Yeah, okay, and no references?
Well, nothing. Nothing that's included, no introduction to firm, well, representative projects are not included here. Project approach is not included in section 1. Now, oddly, there are 2 section 2s. It seems very hastily put together. And so in section 1, there are no references, no project approach, no resumes, no representative projects. John, you said, let's see, you said you found references for them.
I had a list here and I checked off references, so
Yeah,
somebody
I'm
found them.
Okay,
I have references here, it says,
On 34.
yeah,
Yeah.
page 33, and then 34, it has the references, West Boylston, Williamstown, Westfield.
I think that's one of the things the addendum allowed them all to do, was that they wanted to put them all in one area instead of having them all over the place.
Of course, they spell references wrong. Yeah, so the references are there, and then there's some awards that they won. And then there's a photo of the team, I guess, the project team, then it goes into the different people. Then, I also didn't see a couple of the other forms that were listed.
I think most of their forms were in the back.
In the back, yeah,
Okay.
the last few pages.
Well, but that's just the 2 that I've referred to. That's all that they have listed as the required forms, and they are there indeed, but that is not, that's not all that is listed in section
RFQ,
3
right.
in the RFQ.
Hang on, I'm getting there.
I think some of the other ones didn't respond to that either.
Actually, I did find them though, the other ones.
Yeah, I think some of them were responded to in different areas, but not in that back form section.
I'm trying to get to the end there, it's so hard to scroll down with these things.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so in the appendix or whatever, they have required forms. Bidder documentation. It just says attachment B. Where's attachment A?
Oh, the attachment A was a sample contract, I think.
Right.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
does that precede B somewhere?
Well, it was just a sample contract so they could see what they would have to be entering into. Wasn't something they had to send back to us.
Okay, so, okay, attachment B then is the non-collusion, tax compliant, corporate bidder. And then certificate of liability insurance, and that's it. So what are the other ones that were required? So there's insurance, bidder. Anybody have the RFQ up?
Mark does. So in EDM, although it's not mentioned in the documents, it does say in the cover letter, I hereby certify that EDM is not currently debarred or suspended by the Commonwealth, etc. So that's included.
What does it say was required forms? Okay, tax compliance, certificate of non-collusion, corporate bidder, those are there, disbarment certification. And then workers' comp, general liability, excess liability, auto, and professional liability.
Let me look at the next page.
Yeah, that would be the last page.
Oh, bankruptcy. Okay, it does have commercial, auto, umbrella liability. Any submission that fails to include all of the above information will be rejected as unresponsive. Okay, so it looks to me like, you know, we have one clear firm that's higher than the rest, HKT. We have 3 of them that are 31, 41, 43, and then we have CBA, which, you know, I think that if we're going to say that it's disqualified because it doesn't have all the forms, then we need to go back and make sure that all the other ones have the form, if we're going to exclude them for that. That's just my opinion.
I would agree, because that would be unfair to them.
Yeah.
If that were
I agree
the
too.
case.
And if we're getting rid of the other 3, then maybe we just need to make sure that HKT has it. Right? Because, you know, the 2 other firms that come in next to them are 41 and 43. I mean, unless we're going to consider interviewing them along with a 69. What do you think?
What's the score of Kalo and Beaton?
Oh, we didn't go so far. We haven't entirely done that. I asked you what would it be if
It's 54.
54?
I'll take a look and verify
Because
that.
she had to take Mark's score off.
That's with me, Glenn.
What are the 4 numbers, Ed?
54, 3, 5, and 0.
So according to this, they're the next highest behind HKT.
Yep. So, let's ask you a question. So, skipping CBA for a minute, we have a high score of 69, actually 62. 'Cause we got rid of-
62.
62. So, if the CBA isn't included, would we still want to interview the 41 and 43?
I think it really comes down to a time frame here, the inviting and setting up a meeting.
Yeah.
I'd rather meet with 2 different companies at the same day
Okay, then in that case, we don't have to worry about the EDM and HTM at the moment, or the JCJ. Why don't we just confirm that HKT and CBA have exactly what we need? Because it's gonna come down to those two, and if CBA doesn't have it, then we can discuss again whether we wanna bring in the next highest one,
Well,
which is,
we do the 2 interviews, and if we find out CBA doesn't have it, and the other one comes in and it's a good interview, we may not have to go looking for another
right.
company.
I think we should comb a little bit on the 2 leading ones, and just make sure they have everything that we say they should have. And then if we have to go down to the next one, we will.
Right.
Does that sound all right with everybody?
I want to make sure I understand exactly what we're doing. Yeah, it's a little unclear. What are we doing? Are we,
Well, we're basically saying that we're not going to do all of them anyway. So if we want to just go with, right now, what the top 2 scores are, then it's HKT with 62 and CBA with 54. But if we want to be absolutely sure that we're comparing apples and apples, let's just look back over the HKT, the leader, and make sure they have all the forms that we said that they should have. And then we'll look at CBA and make sure that they have all the forms that, like, comb through a little bit tighter their proposals and make sure that both from, that the scores are valid.
Question,
Yeah.
how long do you think an interview would take?
Well, we set up an hour
1 hour.
interview for the 2 senior center ones.
Yeah.
Well, after 3 hours, we get tired. So
are
we
you
could
looking
do
at
3.
HKT?
I don't think I would favor that, only because there's 2 clear winners, and one would only be the difference of 41 versus 43.
As a considerable drop off.
That's a big
But
drop. I mean, it's up to everybody, but I think that at the first, I just want to make sure
Some of
that,
that's the vagueness of the
Yeah, I know.
requirements, though.
well, that's why I'm saying that if there's 2 clear leaders, then I feel a little bit better about it, like there's more consensus about it. Once you start going down, the difference between 41 and 43 might be what we all decided, which there's a little bit of gray area there.
I agree with you, Rita. Let's do the 2.
Well, let's just look at, okay, let's start with the leader, okay? If somebody, Christina, you have the proposal available?
I do, but I'm not, I can't go through it.
Okay, well, you don't have to really,
I mean, to comb through it, to find a debarment statement, et cetera, I'll have to look through it, because it's not in the
well,
forms.
if you remember correctly, this particular proposal, you couldn't get any higher. I think they only lost 1 point. One person on the committee said it wasn't
Correct.
the highest organization and all that. So where it says, the designer must have, where does it say about the forms?
Section 3, is that what?
The qualifications submitted must include all required documentation listed under section 3 above.
So what I can say about in the cover letter of HKT. HKT Architects is pleased to submit our qualifications for designer services for the feasibility study for a new public safety complex and certify that our proposal meets the requirements outlined in the RFQ.
Okay, but if we're holding them accountable to the same standard, then what we should be looking at is, let's just come back to the original RFQ. If you have that handy, can you just read off what's supposed to be in there? And I will look, and anybody else can look too if you want to be quicker about it. And let's just make sure that they have all the forms that we said they should have.
Those aren't forms, though, the statements. The
Okay.
debarment isn't a form. They're just statements.
That might have been a confusion. They were looking for forms, they did the forms that we asked for, but
Yeah.
the statements on forms.
Well, let's just make sure the
so
statements are there on the 2 leading ones
they
then.
gave us
I
the
say that
forms.
that's a statement. They're certifying that they are qualified.
So there was
That
nothing
seems
in
to
the
be-
C and B application
But can
proposal
you
that
just
said
read what
they-
it says, though?
I'll read the whole section. The designer must submit the following. A is a completed certificate of state tax compliance, certificate of non-collusion, and corporate bidder. These forms are attached, that's referring to those 3 items. B is debarment certification, refer to the requirements and sample contract attached. Evidence of required insurance, workers' comp, general liability, excess liability, automobile, and professional liability. Confirmation the designer has not filed for bankruptcy in the last 10 years. Acknowledgement of the ability to provide insurance coverage according to the town's minimum limits. The town minimum limits are attached. Acknowledgement that it has sufficient resources to complete the study by November 22nd, 2023. A list of at least 3 professional references along with contact information. And the last sentence is any submission that fails to include all of the above information will be rejected as unresponsive.
And I maintain that their certification that our proposal meets the requirements outlined in the RFQ.
Yeah, I'm not convinced of
Can you
that.
hand me the
I feel like
CD?
if it says that they have to need all these things, I'm not sure a statement alone is enough. And they do have a lot of, I'm just looking for references. Yeah, they have references under integrated team. Let me just find it.
That's all they are, is statements, though.
They have a whole section on references. I'm just trying to check all the boxes that Mark just read. Yep, references. Required certifications. Non-collusion, tax compliance, corporate bidder.
Insurance. So what are we looking for specifically?
We're just making sure that if we're gonna say that this place is the highest, has everything, I just wanted, we're just combing through it again to make sure if we're holding CBA to the same standard, then we just want to make sure that we can say, yes, everything's there.
So
Yep, insurance forms, certificate of liability insurance, and then all the
the borrowing and bankruptcy, I could not find.
Yeah, workers' comp, what was the one you just said, Mark? I mean, John?
Debarment
Oh,
and
yeah.
bankruptcy.
Mhm. Non-collusion, tax compliant, corporate bidder. That's all I saw. So I didn't see, other than saying that I didn't see anything about the bankruptcy and disbarment. Unless it's in the front.
The other things were part of, included in forms, right?
Yeah.
So the other two could be somewhere else.
I'm just gonna look, yeah, I'm just gonna look under the profile.
Can you search that word?
Yeah, on my phone, what do we, what specifically do you want?
Debarment.
Debarment or bankruptcy. I have downloaded it, but I was having a hard time getting it from the drive.
Ed, can I ask a technical question?
Yes.
If you have a valid license to practice in the state, does that preclude being debarred?
I believe so.
Yeah, and then the other interpretation I had is, as far as bankruptcy goes, the firm is active. And I know how I looked, when they were, it wasn't specified, or I couldn't find it specified, I went into the DBS and looked at the principals and saw the number of years it had been in business, and interpreted that as meaning that they had not been filed for bankruptcy. I don't know whether that was legitimate or not, but that was my way of assuming that bankruptcy had not been filed for.
Mark, you have the RFQ there?
Yes.
How does it address the bankruptcy?
The specific language regarding bankruptcy states debarment certification, and it says refer to requirements in the sample contract. And as far as bankruptcy, confirmation that the designer has not filed for bankruptcy in the last 10 years.
Is confirmation different than evidence?
Well, to me, confirmation, if that's the case, I mean, I think the statement that they said, I certify that we meet all the qualifications of the RFQ. If all it says is there's some level of like certification as opposed to some form, it doesn't sound like there is a form that
There
says.
isn't.
There's not a form for debarment.
I don't know if this has anything, it says required certification. I think this is what you're referring to, Lee, and then it has almost like they signed under oath that they met all the certifications.
Yes.
What you're looking at?
Yeah, yep.
That's how I interpret that. Now, Rini, the only one that truly addresses it is JCJ, and you see here, it's just an insurance coverage statement and a sufficient resources statement, and it's just a simple sentence, but they are addressing it.
They did say something about not being disbarred or not having bankruptcy in the last 10 years?
Bankruptcy statement.
Okay.
But it's, again,
Okay.
it's open to interpretation.
I think so long as it's addressed in their, at least saying that we meet all the qualifications of the RFQ and they certify that they do, I think that's fine. So
If
that
we
would,
interview them, can we ask for clarification on that?
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
fair.
that is initial criteria, so I just want to make sure that we're. So I guess the question comes back to, like it's clear where they're the high scorer, but then the question comes back to CBA again.
And what is it, CBA we're looking for?
Well, that they had all the required forms as well.
And which ones are missing?
Disbarment and
'Cause they have-
bankruptcy.
They have a statement that says it might be paid out to you if it happened as a result of professional liability claims. And they state no.
Where is that?
Professional liability insurance under Hartford Underwriters Insurance Company,
What page of the proposal?
88.
88.
Did I hand out the CBA?
I'm looking at it. Oh, I was trying to find the same thing.
88.
88 is not even in here. It stops at 86. Oh, sorry.
88.
Sorry,
It's
it's under
88.
required forms. Sorry.
What's on the website?
So they
On the Google Docs drive.
Okay, I'm on page 88. Where does it say that?
I'm sorry.
Is this what this said?
Yeah, if you look, that looks like it. So here's the sentence I'm reading here, it's number 12.
Okay. Have monies been paid to you on behalf as a result of professional liability claims in any jurisdiction during the past 5 years, excess of $50,000 per incident?
Yeah, so if there was like bankruptcy, it would be, the answer is there. If there's bankruptcy, you'd have to pay something.
Actually, that's not the one she's looking at.
So it's sort of implied, and it's illegal.
The numbers that they're reading do not correspond to that, because he's reading it out of on a document that's numbering pages, so I don't know where it is.
Yeah,
Submit.
yeah. So that's why they're, with that document, is with their insurance company saying that they haven't paid anything out, you know, had any legal obligations. Yes. Here is mud everywhere.
It's true.
When we get to the interview process, that's when we're gonna ask questions.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's seeming like those two are sort of standing out and worth interviewing, unless we're really feeling like they're missing something.
CBA also seems to have that same certification statement on page 92 that we made the same reference to with HKT, I think it is. A lot of acronyms here, hopefully I'm getting it right. But they have that same kind of under the oath certification process.
Can you read it to us, please, Chief?
Probably not on my phone, but
I'm right here.
every
It
time I
says,
expand it, I lose it.
it says the contractor, CBA, certifies or affirms the truthfulness and accuracy of each statement of its certification and disclosure, if any. In addition, the contractor understands and agrees that the provisions of 31 U.S.C. Chapter 38, blah, 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 applies to this certification and disclosure. I think they're certifying the accuracy of what they're provided. It's a little bit different in my mind to what was in the previous one.
All right, well, it being after 6, shall we, let's try to come to some decision. Shall we take the time to try to find this information in CBA since they rank higher? We need to come to a consensus so we can move forward.
I would personally say that the two who are scoring the highest, they've got generally, we're kind of really trying to search and read in between lines to figure out who's got what. Maybe if we take both of them to the next step, then we ask them specifically for information, if there's anything, you know, for bankruptcy statements or anything of that nature. Because at least we're moving forward with the two highest scorers.
I'd probably just direct the question to both of them. Just to be clear, would you please provide us with blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, so you would make that request of them. That seems like a very good idea to me. Shall we, since they are the high scorers, even though the RFQ doesn't specify that, it says if the documents aren't there, then they're excluded. But I think based on the ratings, shall we ask Ed to contact HKT and CBA and request the specific documents? Could I have a motion in that?
I'll make a motion that the committee has identified HKT as the highest score at 62 and CBA second with 54, and will request an interview of both of them.
I second.
Any discussion? Well, I have a question.
Yeah, it didn't go to your original question.
No.
So her original question was, should we enable Ed to go forward with asking them for the specific information?
Well, the motion on the floor needs to be voted on, and
Okay.
then another motion can be made to authorize that to move forward.
Yeah.
Or I'll just amend the motion and ask for an interview, and also ask them to provide clarification on the bankruptcy, no bankruptcy in 10 years, and also has not been disbarred.
And I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the question, I also have a question
Abstain.
that CBA didn't, or maybe I didn't recognize it, the corporate bidder question, so that should be,
I think that is there.
it is, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just brought that up. Let me just be sure about that. Here. It's down, it's at the very
You
end.
have it?
Is the corporate
Okay,
bidder.
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Sorry. Okay, so we have a motion and a second,
And a vote. It was unanimous with one abstention, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that what you heard, Christine?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else on the agenda?
The only thing else on the agenda was, are there any other business?
Okay, so can we look at the dates though? And we had a date range for these interviews. Can we decide on when we want them to come in, Ed?
Yeah, I would suggest probably trying to come up with a couple of possible dates and times to throw up to both of them.
Okay. Let's see what was on the original, you have the original proposal. What does it say in terms of the timetable for the interviews? It says, I think, only up to April 6th.
Oh, the April 6th, yeah.
It's pretty tight.
That was for the interviews?
Yeah. I think it's 3/28 to 4/6, if I'm not mistaken.
Interviews deemed necessary is March 23rd to April 6th.
Okay, so between now and
April 3rd?
March 3rd to April 6th.
No, April 3rd, do the interviews?
Oh,
Is that next Monday?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
and we have to post that meeting, so we gotta make sure we...
I won't be available for that.
Well, how about, is there any other time you're available?
April 4th?
I am, yes, I'm available April 4th and the rest of the week that particular day.
Are people available late, what time are you available? And Mark, what time would you be available? Any earlier than 4:30 or not?
It can be earlier than 4:30.
Not exactly.
Which day?
Can we do like a 4 and a 5 or
Yeah.
4 to 5:30?
I can do 4.
4 and 5:30 on the caucus is that night, but it's not till 7.
Which night are you on now?
Now we're on, because we wanted Chief
I'd like-
Illingsworth
yeah.
to be able to be there.
I'd like the chief to be able to be here.
Can people make the 4th for a 4 o'clock and a 5:30?
I cannot.
You can't do either? No?
No, grandkids.
Um,
And you don't want me to bring here. No, trust me. A 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
no.
Well,
Well,
we
there's
need
a
the
select board
chief.
meeting every other day of the week, it seems. So on Thursday is a select board meeting. I can't do Wednesday.
I think it's very
Friday.
important to have the chief here.
Yeah, okay. Is there anybody else that can't make the 4th?
All right, then set it up for the 4th.
Okay.
I'll see if I can.
Okay. Okay, so 4 o'clock and 5:30.
4 o'clock.
Is that give enough time in between?
It'll have to, I'm probably more worried about the 5:30 going to
The
close to the
caucus, yeah.
7 of the caucus.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we'll
let's
just
do
keep it
it.
to an hour, that's all there is to it.
Yep. Here it is, you got half an hour for a presentation and
Yeah.
half an hour for questions.
Questions,
Boom.
yeah, and that's it. We'll have a timekeeper. And does that work for you, Chief?
Yes.
For the senior center, did you offer 2 different days?
No, they both came in on the same day.
I think originally we offered 2 different dates, but it was a question of you're both covering the same one, so.
Now, I'm sure that Lucy will be concerned,
Oh, I'm sure.
so can we say that we'll be done by 6:30?
Well, where are we doing the interview?
Usually in the select board meeting room.
Yeah.
Well, yes, because I want to try to broadcast it.
Yeah, right.
And/or record it also.
I don't think we can do much earlier, and I don't think we can make a smaller amount of time in between.
Trick's going to become with that is, now when are you going to vote?
Yeah.
Probably not going to be that night
Good point.
Well,
then.
if
You're not
it's,
going to have time.
What does it say, about the engagement, Mark? What does it say after the 6th?
Says the interviews is necessary April 6th. Submit designer recommendation awards to...
Select board, yeah,
Submit to the select board on April 11th.
April 11th.
So there is.
Okay, we got a lot of time there, but we could have a meeting on the 10th
Yeah,
Yeah,
if we had to.
10.
I'd say we schedule it now.
Yeah, schedule it, and if we have time to vote, if it's a clear winner, we could always
Yeah,
vote
absolutely.
on the, but leave the option open to have a meeting on the 10th if we have to.
how beneficial would it be to move the times up another half hour? say 3:30 and 5, I don't want to create trouble. So I'm willing to take a little more time off from work if that works, that's more
On the
advantageous.
4th, is that what you're just?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I'm flexible on the 4th.
Might as well.
I can be.
Yeah,
Mark, can you do
I'm
it?
good.
So we're starting earlier then?
So it'd be 3:30 and 5.
Yeah, 3:30 and 5, just to be able to get out of the room and not worry about. So 3:30 to 4:30, and then 5 to 6? So 3:30 to 6?
Yeah. And then we go vote in the parking lot.
Is that right? 3:30 to 4:30 and 5 to 6?
yes.
And just throw it out that whoever responds first gets the preferential time.
Yep.
Well, it could be seen as either one. Go
Uh-huh.
first might be advantageous.
Well, I mean, whoever
And go
responds.
last might be
Well,
advantageous.
I was gonna say, whoever responds first, whatever they pick,
Yeah, right.
the other one gets default.
So these are going to be in the select board room, and they're going to be live? Is that what
They'll
you
be
said?
broadcast, yeah.
So I'm gonna try to see if they'll do it live rather than just as.
Well, if we're going to start earlier, then we could theoretically vote that night.
Yes.
Or if we need more deliberation,
We'll go to the 10th.
we'd go to the 10th.
Okay.
So how do these interviews take place? Does the chair create questions? Do we come up with questions?
They do a presentation.
They do a presentation, and then anybody among us can ask
yeah.
questions.
Having been through a lot of these, a lot of times it's nice to have a set of questions so that both applicants get a same set of questions and not tailor to one and tailor to the other. There can be some open-ended in the end, but typically there's a list of questions, so it's fair to both parties.
Yeah, I seem to remember the senior center one that the committee had come up with, maybe not a list of questions, but topics or whatever that they wanted
Yeah,
us to hit
that's,
on.
I really know.
It's a while ago now.
Well,
Like 1,000 meetings since then.
I know.
That said, we'd need to meet once beforehand, correct? To come up with that list of questions?
Not necessarily.
No, you could all just come up with them on your own and send them to the chair and ask the chair to basically put them into some type of order.
But we can't send them to all, because that would break
No, I
Yeah,
said
just-
send them to the chair.
only to the chair.
So that at least we have the same set of questions going to both rooms.
Right.
That's really the main thing.
And I will compile, and I can send that compiled list to everyone.
You could.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm gonna look in the file and see if I have the old questions that were asked the last time we did this.
I think we just generate our own.
They may be the same questions.
If we all send it to him and
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
send it along.
Yeah, we can't deliberate differently. We
No,
can
no, no.
compile it, and I can send out
Now,
what
we
I
can
think
make
is a
you work the
draft.
hardest,
Yeah.
give them all to you.
And Mark, if there's like similar questions, you could, I know I've been in this situation before. I think if Charlie and John submit something that, seems very similar, you could just combine
I
it
think
so that there's.
I'll mash it up and
Yeah,
send it
okay.
out.
All right, so everybody, what do you want to buy? The questions by?
Soon.
What is the floor?
Soon?
Yeah, soon.
Soon, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we need a
And
date.
Is he's okay to take and conduct his chair for this? Because he's not doing any scoring, but he's still there for the meeting. I personally don't think there's an issue in there, but
It's the perception, Charlie. so.
It's the percent, yeah, that's why I threw that word out there. We're not saying there is a conflict of interest. If you got enough other people to vote and whatever.
I think it's better to just remove any perception.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there was an issue that came up on the senior center, one that was not an issue, but some people thought it was an issue. So
Yeah.
it's just better to not even worry about it.
Right, exactly.
Okay, how about if we get questions to you by Thursday?
Thursday the
Thursday,
30th?
30th?
Yeah,
Okay.
the 13th. Wait a minute, where are we? The 30th.
30th would work, yeah. I'm going to wait this weekend, but I can do it.
I mean, do you want it by Thursday?
Thursday, fine.
Okay.
Thursday, end of day, Thursday. I'll work on it.
By end of day.
Do we need to post the April 10th meeting or wait till the 4th?
We can post them both, and then
Just reserve a room.
Yeah, I'd post them, do everything
Yeah.
right now.
I'll do that.
You'll do that?
And we have to post the April 4th
Right.
on My Town Government, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of them, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead and get the calendar and our
And
room
then,
reserved.
and then if we have time and we vote before then, we can just cancel the 10th because it has to go to select board on the 11th anyway.
Okay.
Okay, sounds like a plan. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Wait.
What?
If we go to the select board on the 11th, we have to post that as a joint meeting, so in case
Oh,
we
yeah,
have a
all right,
quorum.
good point.
Okay.
Now, just so I'm understanding this, we're doing the interviews, we're gonna determine who's best.
Understand
But
the
we're-
deadline is that.
What about what we're compensating them for? What we're gonna be, they're gonna be looking for compensation. Are we, when we decide which company
Oh,
we'll
right.
vote for,
Right.
are we having the select board negotiate the price?
Good point.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah,
I think
good
so.
question.
But I think that is the select board's responsibility.
Let me look back at the chart, okay?
I don't think it's us, that's,
It's not on the chart, no. I mean, I think that was an early question, when do we negotiate a price?
yeah.
Yeah, can we ask them during the interview about a range or no? How does that, what do you think, Ed?
I'd ask for a range,
Could be one of the questions.
Yeah.
yeah. No. At least it gives us an idea, and if we have one company that's out in interstellar space with prices, then we know automatically we can't afford them.
Should they both give us a price? And that's part of the decision?
I wouldn't say a price, I would say a range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that gives,
At least make sure we're in the right ballpark.
Negotiable.
yeah, then it gives the select board something to work from.
And would that request be given to them before the interview so they could prepare?
Well, they,
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
would you think they would sort of have a handle on it?
Yeah, but it'd be good to prepare them, because we want them to have,
So then we should give them the questions before they show up.
well, at least that one question.
Well, shouldn't we give them all the questions? We're going to have it by the
I think all
30th,
questions, we don't have an opportunity to,
or at least the bullet points.
you know.
But if they're gonna be prepared by the 28th before they come in, then yeah, I guess there's no reason not to give them. Because we want good answers.
We do want good answers and thought through answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
typically, not to put in my 2 cents, but having gone to a lot of these, it's nice to have them think on their feet rather than respond to these questions. They'll deliver a presentation, we like to give them a set of questions for them to answer on their feet.
How about if you kind of, if you're going through the questions anyway, kind of go through with some that we would want them to prepare for, like how much, you know,
I think
ballpark
a
cost.
dollar amount would be
Yeah.
definitely,
But then some or all the others can all be think on their feet questions, because I think you're right, I think it is important that they think on their feet and how they're going to react and what's that going to look like to us. So I think a split on that, some that they have thought about before they get there, and then some that they think on their feet for, and I certainly trust you to put those in what makes sense for them.
What about the idea of just asking Ed to include a request for price range in the letter of notification for the interview? Does that make sense?
I think it could make sense. Is there any other questions that we would want them to prepare for?
I think one of them is what I found not clear in all of those presentations was how much have they delivered presentations directly to the select boards or to the selection committee, et cetera. And I don't think it was clear, so I'd like to know how they do that and when they do that and how frequently are they available. Can they be available by Zoom calls if we have questions? I'm just listening to all the meetings the ad hoc senior center feasibility committee did, and the person they chose is there all the time. We may want that person to be available to us. That would be.
Well, they've been part of every meeting we've had, for
Yeah.
every 2 weeks since it started.
Nice.
And not just one person.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
$60,000. It's like amazing to me, and it's
They're available.
present for every
Yeah.
Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Well, that's, yeah, some of the advantages
And I
of
think
local.
three-
Some of these companies are way out.
Well, they're actually in Boston. Yeah.
And they're there for every meeting.
Zoom.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah, I bet.
I've been meetings in Boston.
So you're gonna let us know if we confirm that they're available for that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify, we're going to send questions to me, I'm going to digest them into a single list of questions, email them back to the committee. Ed is going to request a meeting with the two architects and request funding ranges. Are we going to give them a specific set of questions to address in addition to request for funding?
I would think so.
Yes or no? I'm sorry.
I would think so.
Okay, so we need to develop two lists of questions, one for the interview and one as an early on.
Before they...
Yeah,
Yeah.
one.
And you can
pre-notice,
decide which ones
yeah.
you think would be good for them to come prepared to discuss and other ones on the spot.
And if your information to me, if you think there's a preference for your early
Yeah,
or
okay.
on interview questions, you tag that with me and I'll try to digest it and put it into a pot.
Did anybody have a sense from reviewing all of these? They did list prices for the firms charge.
There was one company that did that, yeah.
Oh, only one?
Oh,
I was just curious what people thought because, tomorrow night we're going to be looking at the ARPA funds and right now we have $125,000. I had said to see about increasing it by 50, thinking, that it would at least give us a range up to like 175. But I wasn't really sure. And it's not paid, it's only encumbered, because we're getting down there on the ARPA funds.
We send the money back.
Huh?
You can always turn the money back.
I don't think the select board has been interested in awarding anything, but they're willing to, I think, encumber something.
Right.
You got your sense, Ed?
Pretty much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, JCJ was the only one who booked on their fee as well as the
Okay.
cost of the,
Okay. But we don't
Project.
know, we don't have any kind of sense of what we would expect as far as a range for this?
I think in the DSB, DBS forms, in some of the examples, some of the
yeah, the DSP
fees.
form does have costs.
I mean, is it
design
reasonable to be
costs as
$100 to
well as-
Yeah,
$150,000?
that's what I'm remembering.
Well, like I say, said for this last round, the information I got back
Yeah, it was 200.
was $200,000.
But then we
But
made
that
some
was based on
changes.
number two.
Yeah, we removed 20 years worth of
Yeah.
maintenance. I mean, there's a lot of things that we tried to pare down to try to make it a little bit more
I
affordable.
would like to think we could get it down to like 150, but
That would be-
175 gets us a little.
Yeah, okay, a little
So it's a
cushion.
fine,
Okay,
a little
well,
cushion.
that's what I'm hoping for. Okay,
I think
You
it's
have
better
three?
to,
Do we have a
I mean,
motion to adjourn?
yeah, so moved.
First, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.